Welcome to Zenku Life. This is our deep dive into finding that calm and clarity within ourselves. And today we're focusing on cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, and also guided breathing, how these can help, untangle the mind.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because the idea isn't about completely changing who you are.
Right.
It's more like reconnecting with that sense of calm, that clarity that's, well, maybe buried sometimes, but it's already there.
Exactly. Reconnecting with who you've always been. And we're hoping to show how these tools can help you break free from, say, overthinking.
Which so many of us struggle with.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And anchor your attention. Maybe foster more intentional growth instead of those impulsive habits we can fall into.
Make sense of the emotional swings, too. That's a big one.
Yeah. Inhaling clarity, exhaling chaos, maybe. Let's begin.
Sounds good. So our goal here really is to give you some practical insights. We've looked at a bunch of sources, YouTube videos, articles from psychology groups, ADHD-focused organizations.
Right. Places like Barbara Heffernan, Sunnybrook Hospital, CHED, Attitude, Healthline, Associated Clinic of Psychology. A good mix.
Yeah, a solid foundation to understand how CBT and breathing actually work.
Okay, so let's unpack CBT first. Specifically, how it helps us understand something like anxiety. One source, Barbara Heffernan's video, really hammered home this core idea. Thoughts, feelings, behaviors. They're all linked.
Totally interconnected. It's often not the event itself, but how we interpret the event that drives our emotions and what we do next.
Which makes sense when you think about it.
Yeah, and Heffernan points out something interesting about how anxiety can start in this cycle. Sometimes it's a thought, right? Triggered by something outside, like maybe your partner seems mad or you nearly have a car crash.
Right.
Or sometimes it can actually start with just a physical feeling, like the beginnings of a panic attack, maybe, that tightness in your chest.
Okay. So it can come from different directions. And there's this physiological link too, isn't there? When we worry, our sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight one.
Yep, the gas pedal.
It gets like hyperstimulated, it revs up.
While the other side, the parasympathetic system, the brakes, the calm down system.
That one often feels a bit underdeveloped in our hectic modern lives.
That's a good way to put it. It doesn't get as much exercise, maybe.
Yeah.
And this imbalance, coupled with our thoughts, feeds directly into our behaviors. Heffernan uses this example. Say you're worrying your partner might leave you.
Okay.
That worry might lead you to, I don't know, not do the dishes, withdraw a bit, which then unfortunately might actually worsen the situation or at least reinforce your original worry. It becomes a loop.
That classic cycle. So for anyone listening, a key takeaway here seems to be trying to identify your own anxiety loop.
Definitely.
Like, what's the trigger? Is it external, internal? What thoughts pop up? What feelings follow? What do you do?
And crucially, where is a point in that chain where you could maybe step in? Where could you intervene and choose something different?
That awareness seems key.
Yeah.
Just recognizing the pattern.
It slows things down, doesn't it? It gives you a moment, a bit of space between the trigger and the usual reaction. Gives you more agency.
Yeah, more choice. And Heffernan made this point that really resonated thoughts are just thoughts. We give them so much power. We tend to believe every single one that pops into our heads.
Oh, absolutely. We all have weird, fleeting thoughts, but anxiety makes us grab onto certain ones and just analyze them to death.
Which just fuels the fire.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this leads nicely into the idea of the observer mind.
Okay, what's that?
Think of it as cultivating a part of your awareness that can just notice your thoughts and feelings as they happen without getting sucked in.
Like watching clouds drift by?
Sort of, yeah. Strengthening that observer part, sometimes called cognitive diffusion, creates distance. So instead of I am anxious, it becomes I'm having an anxious thought or I'm noticing a feeling of anxiety.
That's a subtle but powerful shift. It changes your relationship to the thought.
Precisely.
Okay, so we see the cycle. We see how to create space. Now, what about practical techniques? Actually making changes. Our sources mention cognitive distortions.
Right. Heffernan, CHED, Healthline, all talk about these. They're basically unhelpful thinking patterns, ways our minds can twist reality a bit.
Like mental filters that aren't quite accurate.
Yeah, exactly. Mental traps, almost, that often lead us down a negative path.
Can you give some examples, things people might recognize?
Sure. A really common one is catastrophizing.
Yes, expecting the absolute worst.
Yeah, taking one small negative thing and blowing it up into a disaster. Then there's black and white thinking, seeing everything as either all good or all bad, no middle ground.
Right, no shades of gray.
And maybe magical thinking, making connections that aren't really logical, like, if I worry enough, maybe the bad thing won't happen.
Oh, interesting. So just spotting these patterns.
Yeah.
That's helpful in itself.
Hugely helpful. Recognizing, oh, that's catastrophizing again, helps you challenge it. It creates that distance we were talking about. You realize it's just a thought pattern, not necessarily a reality.
It's like seeing the trick your mind is playing.
Kind of, yeah.
Heffernan also mentioned an exercise. Imagining a calming place. How does that fit in?
Yeah, that connects back to the nervous system. It's about deliberately activating the parasympathetic system, the rest and digest side.
The calming side.
Exactly. By vividly imagining a peaceful place, focusing on the senses, what you'd see, hear, smell, feel.
Really getting into the details.
Yes, you're basically sending signals to your body. You're safe, you can relax. It directly counteracts the physical sensations of anxiety. Even just a few minutes can make a difference.
That makes sense. Another point from Heffernan was about looking beyond anxiety, identifying other emotions underneath. Why is that important?
Well, sometimes anxiety is kind of like the tip of the iceberg, you know?
Huh.
It can mask other feelings bubbling underneath, maybe sadness or regret, frustration, even anger. If we only focus on the anxiety, we might miss the root cause.
So anxiety could be a symptom of something else going on.
It can be, yeah. Becoming aware of those deeper emotions allows for a more complete understanding and maybe a more effective response, tackling the real issue, not just the surface feeling.
Interesting. Like anxiety, sometimes a distraction.
Yeah.
Okay, what about specific tools? Meditation comes up a lot.
Yes, meditation, guided meditation too. Heffernan mentions these as key ways to build that observer mind.
To practice just noticing.
Exactly, just sitting with thoughts and feelings without judging them or having to do anything about them immediately. Guided meditations can be great starting points, especially if sitting in silence feels daunting at first. She mentioned the Aura Health app as one option.
Good to have resources. Then there was the anxiety box exercise. That sounds intriguing.
It's quite practical. The idea is to designate a specific limited time each day for your worries.
A worry time.
Sort of, yeah. You write down your anxious thoughts, maybe put them in a physical box, or just imagine one.
Okay.
Then, during the rest of the day, if an intrusive worry pops up, you mentally tell it, not now, I'll deal with you during my worry time, and you imagine putting it in the box.
So you're containing it, setting boundaries.
Exactly. You're not letting worries run rampant 24/7. You're giving them a specific contained slot.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's shift slightly. CBT and ADHD. Our sources really highlighted this connection.
Yes, CHAD, ACP, Healthline, they all point to CBT being very relevant for ADHD.
How so? What specific challenges does it address?
It really targets several key areas. Executive functions, for one.
Like time management, organization, planning, things that can be tough with ADHD.
Precisely. And also emotional self-regulation, managing those big feelings, and impulse control.
So what does CBT look like in practice for ADHD?
Well, one major technique is cognitive restructuring. We talked about challenging negative thoughts. That's huge for ADHD, where patterns of self-criticism or feeling overwhelmed can be common. ACP and Healthline mention this, like countering the thought, I'll never get this done, by actively remembering or writing down past accomplishments.
Building evidence against the negative thought.
Exactly. That exercise of listing 10 accomplishments is a great example.
What about managing tasks, that feeling of being overwhelmed by big projects?
Breaking tasks down, that's another core CBT strategy, really effective for ADHD.
Chunking it down into smaller steps.
Yes. Instead of facing one huge mountain, you create a series of small, manageable hills. It makes things feel less daunting, builds momentum. ACP and Healthline both flag this.
That seems crucial. And impulsivity.
ACP mentions the stop, think, act technique.
Simple but effective.
Very. Just inserting that pause. Before you act on an impulse, you deliberately stop. You think about the consequences, the alternatives. Then you act, hopefully more intentionally.
Creates a moment for reflection. Mindfulness also seems relevant here.
Definitely. Being present in the moment without judgment. ACP and Healthline connect this to ADHD management. Techniques like meditation, or even just focused deep breathing.
Which we'll get to more later.
Right. They help create that space between an impulse or a distracting thought and your reaction to it. Just noticing it without immediately acting.
Journaling was mentioned too. How does writing things down help?
ACP suggests journaling helps bring awareness to those thought patterns. Sometimes seeing them written down makes it easier to spot the distortions or recurring negative themes.
Makes them more concrete.
Yeah, and our sources also mentioned adapting CBT for kids with ADHD, using things like visual schedules, checklists.
Making it tangible and structured.
Exactly, and reward systems too. Positive reinforcement for things like finishing a task or managing frustration in a healthier way. It teaches skills in an age-appropriate, engaging manner.
Like that balloon breathing technique ACP mentioned for kids. Well,
Yes, that's a lovely example. Using the image of blowing up and slowly deflating a balloon makes learning to slow down breathing and thoughts more like a game. It's creative mindfulness.
so it sounds like CBT offers a really broad toolkit. One thing CAGD and Healthline noted is that CBT is very here and now focused.
That's a key distinction. While your past shapes you, CBT's main focus isn't deep psychoanalysis of childhood. It's about understanding and changing the thoughts and behaviors causing problems right now.
Right, very practical and present focused. And the consensus seems to be that it works. For ADHD symptoms, executive function, even co-occurring anxiety or depression.
Yes, Healthline and the channel How to ADHD both point to good evidence for its effectiveness. How to ADHD really stresses that CBT teaches you to recognize those cognitive distortions.
Spot the traps.
Yeah, and then adjust your thinking and behavior. They mention the ABC model antecedent, what triggered it, belief, your thought about it, consequence, how you felt acted. And crucially, they point out that good CBT isn't judgmental, it's collaborative. You treat thoughts like hypotheses, things to test out, not absolute truths.
That's a really important nuance.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic overview of CBT. Now let's breathe, literally. Let's talk about guided breathing techniques for calm.
Yes, another powerful set of tools, and often simpler to implement immediately.
Our sources like Sunnybrook Hospital, Ask Dr. Joe, they introduce some really accessible methods.
And the link between breath and the nervous system is so direct. Box breathing, for instance, which Sunnybrook mentions.
Box breathing, right.
It's a super simple way to just reset your breathing rhythm. You can almost immediately feel it engaging that parasympathetic, calming response. Just a few rounds can shift your state.
Okay, walk us through it. How does box breathing work?
Imagine a square or a box. You breathe in through your nose for a count of 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Then you gently hold your breath for 4.
Hold. 2, 3, 4.
Then you breathe out slowly through your mouth again for 4.
Out. 2, 3, 4.
And then hold the breath out for 4.
Hold empty. 2, 3, 4. And repeat.
Exactly. Repeat the cycle maybe 4 or 5 times or for a minute or two. And the beauty is, as Sunnybrook points out, you can do it anywhere. Waiting in line before a meeting.
Nobody even needs to know. What are the specific benefits?
Well, physiologically, it helps regulate your breath, gets more oxygen in, and research suggests it can help lower blood pressure and heart rate over time.
Okay.
And psychologically, it gives your mind something simple and neutral to focus on. It pulls your attention away from the racing thoughts or the stressful situation. The rhythm itself is calming.
Makes sense. Ask Dr. Joe also brought up pursed lip breathing and belly breathing.
Yeah, 2 other great techniques. Pursed lip breathing is basically breathing in gently through the nose, maybe for 4 counts,
Sure.
and then breathing out really slowly through lips that are pursed, like you're about to whistle, but you breathe out for longer, maybe 6 or 8 counts.
So the exhale is longer than the inhale.
Yes, that's key. The slight resistance from the pursed lips helps keep airways open longer, good for calming and for certain lung conditions too.
And belly breathing. Diaphragmatic breathing.
Right. This is about breathing deeply using your diaphragm muscle down below your lungs. So when you breathe in, your belly should expand, and when you breathe out, it should gently fall.
Rather than just breathing shallowly in the chest.
Exactly. You can put a hand on your belly to feel it rise and fall. This deep breathing directly stimulates the vagus nerve, which is like a highway to your parasympathetic nervous system. It tells your body to chill out.
Wow. Directly activating the calm response. And these breathing exercises also connect back to ADHD.
Yes. There's research mentioned in sources like deep breathing for the ADHD brain, suggesting that this kind of rhythmic, deep breathing can help balance the autonomic nervous system.
Which could potentially improve attention.
That's the idea. Coherent breathing is one specific type mentioned, aiming for about 5 to 6 full breaths per minute.
Slower than usual breathing.
much slower. The theory is that this rhythm can help synchronize heart, lung, and brain activity, leading to more calmness, maybe better judgment, less frustration. One source wisely suggested practicing this when you're already calm so it becomes easier to access when stressed.
Good tip. Practice when the stakes are low. And we saw diaphragmatic breathing mentioned again in the context of relaxation generally, and how practices like yoga and meditation incorporate it.
Absolutely. They often feature this type of breathing, which is likely part of why they can be helpful for ADHD and general stress reduction. We already mentioned the fun balloon breathing for kids with ADHD too.
Right, using imagery. And another source, the art of mind-brain resilience, really linked breath work to building resilience.
Yes, they emphasize how consciously using your breath is a direct way to activate that parasympathetic system and dial down the stress response. Even a simple 4-4-4 breath, in 4, hold 4, out 4, can interrupt that stress cycle.
Building our capacity to bounce back.
And they had an interesting suggestion, combining breathing with mindfulness and maybe even a creative reflection, like writing a haiku about the experience.
Layering the technique.
Yeah, making it a more integrated practice for well-being and resilience.
So wrapping this up,
Yeah.
it feels really clear that both CBT and these guided breathing techniques offer very practical, very actionable ways to navigate our inner worlds.
Totally. They're tools for understanding and working with your mind and body, not about fighting yourself, but about reconnecting, like we said at the start, with that natural state of calm and clarity. Finding your Zenku life, perhaps.
Indeed, finding that balance. So a final thought for you listening, reflecting on everything we've discussed. Which specific CBT tool or breathing exercise kind of sparked something for you? Which one resonated the most? And maybe think about one tiny way you could start weaving that into your daily life. Just one small step to cultivate a bit more of that calm, that clarity, that Zenku within yourself.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today.
Yeah, thanks for exploring CBT and breathing with us. We really encourage you to keep exploring it. Maybe check out some of the resources we mentioned if something caught your interest.
And just consider, how these insights might gently shift how you relate to your own thoughts, feelings, and actions as you move forward.